Hey, it's Mark Ferguson with Invest for More, and today I'm talking about house flipping and its impact on the real estate market. A lot of people think that house flippers are raising prices or taking homes away from owner occupants. I'm a house flipper. This is a flip we did about 6 years ago. It was an awful house, actually the last house we bought from the foreclosure sale. But today I'm going to talk about, are these things really true? Are we buying houses owner occupants want? Are we raising prices in neighborhoods? Do we put lipstick on a pig and hide major issues? Or are we actually helping the housing market? I know a lot of people don't believe that, but in fact, flippers are a vital part of the market and provide a very needed service. Like I said, this was a rough house. We'll show you the inside of it, and I'll link below in the comments to the after video and what it looks like when we're done, and I'm going to show you another really awful one we bought too in this video. But a lot of people think house flippers are taking properties away from owner occupants and that houses would be much cheaper if flippers didn't buy those. Well, kind of the opposite is true. For one, if there's a house that owner occupants can buy, they can pay way more than I can as a flipper, and they can still get a really good deal. The reason is they're going to be living in that home. So as a house flipper, not only do we have to repair the house, fix it up, labor and materials have skyrocketed recently, but we have many other costs that homeowners don't have while we're doing that. While we're selling it, fixing it up, it's going to be vacant. So we're paying all these utilities, we're paying property taxes, we're paying insurance, and we're paying financing costs because most house flippers have to get loans. They don't have the cash to do it all on their own. Then when you're done flipping the house, you've got to pay commissions, closing costs, the costs a regular seller would pay as well too. Now, if you're buying as an owner occupant, you don't have to pay those costs until you sell the house later on. But we have to make a profit. So on a house that maybe I have to pay $100,000 for to make a decent enough profit to make it worth my while, an owner occupant could probably pay $120,000, $130,000 for and still get a really good deal, have tons of equity, and be in a great position. So for those houses where flippers are competing with owner occupants, if I'm trying to buy a house and an owner occupant is trying to buy that same house, the owner occupant is almost always going to win that battle, unless the seller just wants to sell it really quick. They don't want to deal with inspections. They just want to get rid of it, which does happen sometimes. But a lot of times owner occupants will beat us out on houses that usually aren't awful. So that's another thing to consider, is when an owner occupant is buying a property, almost all of them will be getting loans. So FHA, conventional, USDA, VA, 90% of owner occupant loans will require a house to be in livable condition, meaning you can't have the hole in the wall that you just saw right there or right there. You can't have broken windows. The HVAC, the heating system, all has to work. The electrical all has to work. The plumbing all has to work. The roof has to be in good shape. You can't have peeling paint. You can't have holes in the floor. You can't have, you have to have working appliances usually. There's a lot of guidelines those loans require you to meet, and most houses we buy cannot get those loans. They just can't do it, and we really aren't competing with owner occupants because owner occupants can't get those loans, or simply they don't want to, right? Most owner occupants do not want to deal with the repairs and fix up on a house like this. And another advantage is, I've worked really hard over the years to keep my repair costs, my remodel costs down. We even have employees who work for us full-time who do remodels. I can pay much less than an owner-occupant who's trying to go find a contractor for the first time or search Google for someone to do some work. They don't know who they are. A lot of times people get ripped off or they hire the wrong person. It can cost them twice, even 3 times as much as we pay to do the same work. And we're still getting good work done. Our people who work for us are still happy, or they wouldn't work for us. But it's tough. It's hard to repair houses, find the people to do it. And if you have experience, you can do it cheaper and faster. I will say, though, there are still opportunities for owner-occupants who want to take on projects like this. There's FHA 203K loans, which can finance repairs. You can buy a house in any condition, but it can take 60 days. You have 2 appraisals. A lot of sellers won't take those loans. However, HUD homes will. So if there's owner occupants out there who want to buy fixer-uppers, HUD homes are the perfect opportunity to do it. And they even give owner occupants priority over investors. Owner occupants can bid before investors can. A lot of other foreclosures do that as well. So there's still opportunities out there for those owner occupants who want to take on something like this and build even more sweat equity. So it's not like we're blocking out every single buyer who's interested in a fix-up property. Another huge misconception is that we're raising the prices of housing. Now, first off, flippers have been around pretty much forever. So I don't know how people think that it's just now that they're raising the cost of housing and they didn't do it all the time, or maybe that's what they think. But it's financial suicide for a flipper to try to raise the prices of housing overall, right? We want to buy at a big discount so that we can repair the property, pay all our costs, and make a profit. If you're trying to buy at a small discount or retail value and then charge more for the house and other houses are selling for in the neighborhood, you are committing financial suicide. And many flippers, first-time flippers, have tried to do this and lost tons of money doing it. It just does not work that way for a number of reasons. One, you have to get a house appraised for the new buyer. And an appraisal typically will come in lower rather than higher if there's any question about it being at the top of the market. A lot of times, you have neighborhoods have, peak prices that houses will sell for. No matter how nice, how big they are, there's a cap on what people will pay in those neighborhoods. And if you try to break through that cap, you might find a buyer, maybe, but then you're probably going to run into an appraiser who's going to value it lower because there simply aren't any comparable sales to support that higher cost. So it's very difficult, even if flippers wanted to raise the price of houses above what other houses are selling for in that neighborhood. In fact, a lot of times flippers run into the issue of low appraisals. Appraisers see the price they bought it for and the price they're selling it for, and they automatically think the flipper's making too much money. They need to come in low on value, even though they're really not making that much money after all the costs are considered. So it is not something that is easy to do or common to do at all. So we are not raising the prices of neighborhoods. We are actually stabilizing them a little bit, and we'll talk about that here soon, how that works, even though a lot of people think that's crazy talk. It is true to an extent. And if you are trying to raise prices, you're asking for, an awful lesson to learn, unless you're in like a super crazy expensive market where you're popping the top, adding a second story, tearing down properties, building new. But again, you're already in neighborhoods that are extremely expensive and can support that cost. So you're really not raising the cost of that neighborhood either, because that value is already there and has already been raised. And you're looking at one of our most beautiful flips we ever bought. We actually put an addition on that one and completely changed that house. So another idea out there is that flippers just put lipstick on pigs. We just put paint and carpet in a house and that's it. And that does happen sometimes. I'm not going to pretend like it never happens. We've done that before where we've had cosmetic flips, turned them quick, and did okay on it. The thing is, like I said before, we're usually not buying those houses from the MLS where other people can buy them because owner-occupants will pay more for those than we can because we still have those costs. Where we're typically buying those houses are from wholesalers or the foreclosure auction where you have to have cash the same day, or off market in some way where the sellers don't want to sell to an owner occupant. I'm sorry, but that's the truth. Some sellers, they don't want to sell to an owner occupant because they know that owner occupant is going to do an inspection, they're going to have an appraisal, they're going to have showings, all kinds of things they don't want to have, and they might want to just get rid of the house. They might even be embarrassed to show the house or have people see it, so they want to sell it fast, quick, to an investor, get out of there, let that investor fix it up and sell it. And so a lot of times those are the houses we get that don't need much work. Is there some kind of weird situation, or it's like a divorce situation where I had to testify in court one time about the value of a property, and there's a dispute between the husband and wife. It got pretty nasty, and in that situation we bought the house, took it over, and the wife wouldn't leave. So most homeowners do not want to deal with that situation. We've also bought houses where the seller wouldn't leave, probably on 3 or 4 different occasions, and it was usually a wholesale deal. So a lot of people are mad at flippers, mad at landlords, mad at real estate investors because they think they're raising the price of houses or we're taking houses away from owner occupants. They don't even know what wholesalers do. If they ever found out about wholesalers, I think they'd be really mad. What a wholesaler basically does is they find really good deals, sell them to investors like me, and might take 5, 10, 15, 20,000 or more as the equity, when they buy and sell the house to us without doing anything. So, but that provides a service to us. They're doing work. I shouldn't say they're not doing anything. They're not doing any work to the house, but they're doing a lot of work in finding those sellers, finding those deals, talking to people. And they are providing a service because, like I said, a lot of people don't want to sell to owner occupants. They don't want to sell their house on the MLS, or they just don't want to work with realtors because they hate them, which we see sometimes too, even though I am a realtor as well. Primarily, I just do investment properties. I don't buy or sell houses, help buyers or sellers. And getting back to my point about lipstick on a pig, yes, sometimes we do cosmetic flips. A lot of times we do much more involved flips like these houses you're looking at now. We always go through them, HVAC, electrical, plumbing, make sure everything's done right. We cut out mold, we replace drywall, we fix the issues that we find and do our best not to leave any safety issues, any major issues like that. And if we see houses that have major issues, sometimes we skip them because there's just not enough money. We know we can't do it the right way, and we won't buy those properties. Owner occupants often run into those issues too, and a lot of times the houses we buy are actually owner occupants who skimped on repairs or tried to hide stuff or, did put lipstick on a pig for some reason. This is another house, the horrible foundation flip house, if you guys remember that. This was a crazy one. We did not make any money on this house. We had a huge margin and still lost money because the foundation was so awful. But having said that, there are some flippers who do bad work. There are some flippers who cover up repairs or cover up major issues, who don't do repairs right, who cheap out on things. That does happen. There's bad people in every single industry in the world, so you will run into that. But as a buyer, you should always get an inspection. You're probably having an appraisal done. You can't see everything in a house, right? You might miss some things, but an inspection should find major things. If there's questions, if you're worried about a flip, do some research, see if there's any reviews or if there's any information about that company that flipped it. Maybe you can find something. Maybe you can see how good of a reputation they have. But it does happen. The bad ones give the good ones a bad name, but there's also a lot of really good flippers out there. And we do provide a service for the housing industry, which is kind of my last point. People think we hurt housing, we take housing away, we raise prices. We actually kind of do the opposite. I know this sounds crazy, but if we weren't there to buy some of these properties, almost no owner occupants would want to buy any of the houses I showed. In fact, some of these houses were vacant for years, just sitting there doing nothing. Well, a flipper comes in and buys the property, fixes it up, makes it so that owner occupants can buy it. They are adding inventory to the housing market. We are taking vacant, dilapidated houses, fixing them up, putting them on the market, which adds inventory to a very tight real estate market. So in that sense, if you're adding more supply, if you're adding more houses to buy, you're actually helping to stabilize the real estate market. Now, it's not in massive amounts or huge numbers, but it's much better to have those houses on the market and able to be bought by owner occupants than to have them sitting there vacant, not being able to be purchased. And with raising prices and higher prices, it actually makes it harder on flippers. We don't want to pay a ton of money for a house because all our costs go up. Our financing costs, our holding costs, the taxes are higher, the insurance is higher. All of that is higher on more expensive houses. However, more expensive houses does mean that more owners who have those dilapidated houses are willing to sell them because they say, hey, I can get this price for it now. Maybe it's time to let it go. So the higher prices do kind of push out and squeak out more of those vacant houses, which allows more flippers to buy them, or owner-occupants in some cases, or landlords in some cases as well, and then get them in the market. And having said that, landlords who buy houses and fix them up are doing the same thing. They are adding needed inventory to the rental market. A lot of the reason rental prices have increased so much, especially for houses, is there are very few houses for rent. And I know that media and social media is telling you that corporate landlords are evil and buying up all the houses. They aren't. In fact, there were 15.2 million single-family rentals in 2016. Now there is 14 million single-family rentals in 2024. We have lost 1.2 million single-family rentals the last 8 years because owner-occupants are buying them and landlords are selling them more than they are buying them. And during that same time, the number of owner-occupied single-family houses has increased by 8 million homes. So landlords are not buying all the houses. In fact, owner-occupants are buying the houses. And because of that, there are fewer rentals. Supply and demand dictates that rents will go up. And so when landlords buy houses, fix them up, and especially if they're vacant and dilapidated, they're actually adding inventory, helping to stabilize prices as well. So there are a lot of people out there who hate landlords, hate flippers, hate anybody in real estate, hate realtors, and a lot of those people will never have their minds changed. They've just decided that's how it's going to be. And that's just the world we live in. But there's also some people out there who hear these points and think, oh my gosh, that's awful. But in reality, real estate investors are actually helping the housing market. I know I am biased. Of course I'm biased. I'm in the business. I've been in the business for 20 years. I also know a lot about the business and I know a lot about housing. And I think that helps me make a pretty informed decision and give some people some insights into the business and how it really works. And know that not every real estate investor is just making millions and millions of dollars a year. On this house, we lost money. On other flips, we've lost money. On rental properties, we've lost money before. There's a lot of tight margins in this business now, especially with rising costs. And there's a lot of tight margins on rent and making money on rental properties, especially in higher price markets. That is just not making money hand over foot. It's pretty tough right now for investors. It was much, much easier for me to operate as both a landlord and a house flipper when prices were lower. I'm in Colorado. 15 years ago, we were buying houses for a third of the price of what we're buying them for now, maybe even lower. And all our costs were lower. Our margins were better. Our rent to value ratio was better. It was so much easier back then. Unfortunately, we have to deal with high prices just like everybody else. So it's not just the owner-occupants who have a little bit of a harder time with higher prices. It is investors too. And I know nobody's going to feel sorry for us, but just to give you some insights. This house was crazy, and we have even more crazy videos of it once it got torn up. But basically had to replace the entire slab and dig piers and do all kinds of crazy stuff with this foundation. It was nuts. And I bought this when Nikki, my project manager, was pregnant. And so I think that probably caused her never to want to miss time again. So I didn't buy something like this again and wreck both of our lives. So that's all I've got for this video. Like I said, I'll have links below to the finished product for these houses and what they looked like afterwards. I think on 2 out of 3 of these, we actually lost money. And a lot of times the bigger project we take on, just the more involved it gets, the more we find, the harder it is to make these work. And it's not the easiest business in the world. And boy, do I wish I could just raise prices of houses, right? When we don't, when we go over budget and our costs are too high, wouldn't it be nice just to say, well, instead of selling it for $400,000, we'll just sell it for $450,000. That's not how the market works. Supply and demand dictates what those houses will sell for. Buyers aren't going to pay a ton more than what houses are selling for in the neighborhood. And even if they are, the appraiser is going to come in and say, nope, we're not going to appraise it for that much. And most buyers aren't going to just pay more than the appraisal and bring that extra cash to closing, because that's what you have to do in that situation. So you end up selling the property for really what the neighborhood prices were to begin with. All right, that's what I've got for this video. Of course, we'll have more updates, more videos on our current flips we're working on rental properties. I'm buying a new 8-plex next week. This will be a crazy property. Our businesses, laundromat, liquor store, all that, and our commercial rentals too. Let me know if you have any questions, and we'll be back soon.